Welcome to the Tombstone Kings of Queens. Due to adult language and violent nature of the stories told, listener discretion is strongly advised.
Episode 3 Taps. They call it the circle of life. Birth, aging, death. Sin eaters tend to take the circle and turn it on its side, like you're looking for the copper ridges on the side of a quarter. From there, all the real patterns of life show themselves. There's the pattern of violence, ever begetting, ever growing. There's the cycles of retribution and mercy, racing side by side and keeping step with each other. Water cycle, too. When you notice how often the dead linger, you start to wonder if there's really a balance. Someone is killed by a ghost. Maybe they come back as a ghost. Maybe their spirit stays, dissipates. Maybe it even dissolves and goes to the underworld. You don't want that. The underworld is a bad place, even for the most powerful of us. I'd love to believe in heaven. Maybe when it comes round. Sin eaters just take nature's cue, put things down once they fall, fell the ones that get back up that ain't supposed to. Might not be God's work, but sure as hell ain't the regular man's 9 to 5. Shandra and I are sitting cross-legged in a newly renovated living room, somewhere in like the mid-40s on the east side. Fresh laid, snapped-together wooden floors, an island separating the white tiled backsplash wall of the kitchen. I can still smell the paint on the walls. We borrowed the place from Nix, who says the condo don't go on the market until tomorrow. So we have until then to keep the place clean. I'm sitting cross-legged with my shirt off in a circle of chalk and lit skull candles made of black, staining wax. I'm wearing a blindfold that secures a penny over each eye. There's a sting that tells me Shandra is cutting me across the chest, as shallow as a paper cut. I can tell she's holding back her giggling, maybe because she don't really know what she's doing, or maybe thinking of Nix's reaction when she sees the place later tonight.
So tell me, she lingers, about what happened with... You said his name was Lewis?
Not much to say. He left his work ID and key card as a memento. Then the guy who let us in seemed to recognize me.
And that's weird because... Come on, Carolina, any detail helps me. What was weird about him recognizing you?
He said I'd been there before, like last week. Shows me the sign-in book, and I see my signature on the 15th of every month over the last year.
So you have gone back then? Maybe for a delivery? Maybe for a pickup?
I don't remember ever going back. Like since I died. She plays with the numbers 1 and 5 in her head, whispering them to herself like they're binary. You see, Shandra is one of the prey. Those who died as an act of nature. Some of them drowned, some of them collapse during a weekend in Yosemite, some of them just get torn apart by an animal. What this means, for them, is that everything happens for a reason. Every death, every action, all in some magic linked rings like a roadside magician. Shandra tries to see patterns in everything, always working backward trying to find the universal starting point. Some of her family barely escaped Hurricane Katrina in the slums of New Orleans. Now the rest of them, and her, they were crushed under a wall of surge flood that brought the whole house down on top of them. As water filled her lungs, the drowned girl appeared to Shandra and offered her the bargain. Months later, she found her way up to New York, looking for work, looking for justice, pity, looking for anything. And now she and I end up working together in a club in Long Island City, just on the water, faces about where we are now in eastern Manhattan.
What does the number 515 mean to you, Robbie?
Nothing.
Is that why you just drew it in front of you in the chalk dust?
Did I?
I think your partner is trying to tell you something. I'd like to talk to it.
No.
You're in a safe place,
Says the woman holding 2 knives to the man in the blindfold. That gets a hissing laugh out of her. I hear the click of my tape recorder. I hear a glass clink as Shandra pours herself a shot of rum. They keep telling us that rum is the drink that the dead like most. I don't see it. Shandra presses her lips against mine and pushes the rum into my mouth from hers. Her wrist brushes my groin. Sorry.
Don't be. Just proof that you're alive.
Shandra takes a deep breath, and when she exhales, I feel goosebumps all over my chest, up my neck. She reaches around my throat and her hands squeeze. Her hands are strong, and the blood comes rushing to my face, puffing me up like a damn tick. I hate that she starts giggling, swell into a full cackle by the time I smack my hand against the ground. It's really hard to say the safe word with a crushed larynx. When she next speaks, I hear a watery gurgle beneath her voice as the drowned girl and she speak as one person.
General, I'd like you to recount your requiem. Tell me about the night you first met Robbie Crutch.
After I come out of it, we end up ordering in for a pizza. Shandra wants to play the tape back one more time to make sure we didn't miss nothing. She's still in her one-piece black leotard, but she's put some jean shorts and a mini jacket over it. She's busy taking notes, tosses a bunch of grease-lined napkins and my t-shirt on a puddle in the middle of the floor to futilely acknowledge the pool that her Geist made, ruining the wax, the chalk. She then wrings out her hair into the sink. She clicks the tape from the beginning, and we have a listen.
I speak through this whelp as I spoke through Matthew Bolson over a century ago. I am the last battle standard of sweet Dixie. My songs are the songs of her cotton-raised sons and blue-tabard angels of justice. I am the composite of the fallen of Fort Materday in God's land of Virginia. I took this boy under my command when he invaded Yankee territory, so my fight against the tyranny could continue behind enemy lines.
And yet he's totally quiet during reruns of Seinfeld. Shh.
The night I took this body, he laid on the concrete floors, far beneath the streets. What killed him, General? The man who was not a man. The corpse that was not a corpse. He walked among the men, but the men would not see him. He had come to leave a message for the carpetbagger who worked above. The message was clear. I am back for my pound of flesh with compound interest through compound fractures. In a moment, the unman was a rush of movement, his hands now claws, and he slew 3 men with a gesture. Young Robbie here, brave young Robbie, fired his tiny rifle to no avail. The unman grew angry, red-eyed, and twisted Robbie, tearing and chewing through him like an animal. I extended my hand through the darkness, and Robbie took it. I handed him my saber to seal our bargain, and Robbie stood up. As he stumbled up the stairs, across the streets, I called to my fellows, and that scavenger, the pale angel, heard my battle cry. To Tell me as much as you can about the unman or the carpetbagger upstairs. Both are shrouded in death, tugging their sins like a warship through a dirt canal. Their rivalry goes back decades, maybe centuries. The carpetbagger took interest in Robbie when he rose. He told young Robbie to return on a particular date, and young Robbie obliges. Every time Robbie meets him, the carpetbagging snake belly tells him to forget, and young Robbie forgets. But you don't forget. I am the general. I never forget the faces of my foes. One of his minions trails you even now, chaperone to the drowned girl. You mean I'm being followed as well? You all have eyes upon you and ears listening in. If you see the person who's following us tomorrow night, General, will you help us track him down? Can you identify him for us? I shall do that, and far more. I shall stake him to the ground like an insect on display, and twist off each leg as he squirms, and should he cry for mercy, he will find that like compassion for the North, I have none.
I tell Shandra I don't remember half of that happening. She tells me that it's the 8th of the month. 7 more days, and we get to test a theory. What I remember most about my first few nights after my resurrection is unrelenting hunger. I went between lunch buffets and Taco Bells, White Castles. Felt like I couldn't get enough. I'd eat to the point where I had to vomit. Then I'd go back in for seconds. Then thirds. Then you get it. All the while I had this new white noise played on repeat in my head like taps from a distant bugle. You know, the song ba 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 ba. My head just felt full, occupied as the general rode along my every step, pushing me left and right like a conjoined twin with a shorter leg. The shock of seeing the dead cluttered, passing among the living was way too much at first. They press on, wandering, packed like sheep and ignored as badly as everybody else. That's the hardest contradiction of going from human to a New York-based sin-eater. You're never alone, but you'll never feel as lonely. Full of life, but never so empty inside. Leslie would find me about a week later. He spent the first day talking exclusively to the general, then dragged us both to a flesh fair in Long Island City right along the river. It was overwhelming to find almost 30 people who'd gone through the same thing I had. You get to the top of Death's roller coaster just before the dip, and being pulled back to the start by your Geist. That night was the first time I'd meet Carrie Nix Nicholson. Standing off amid the Sin Eater celebration, straight posture, dry clean business suit, not a hair out of place, martini glass in her hand, full of water with a lemon twist. As fierce as she was sober. Behind her I saw her Geist, the Black Bone Daddy, rise to his own silent fanfare. Charred black skeleton in a tattered coat with tails dangling behind it. It tipped a top hat and clutched a massive black cane dangling between his legs, waving behind Carrie's head in a taunt. He stood above her so that her head was amidst his transparent rib cage, and more than once that night he ran his bony hand down from her head to her shoulder, down to her hip. She saw that I noticed, but she'd never break eye contact. The general and the Black Bone Daddy hit it off right away. They chattered and rattled to each other, gauging each other. According to Nix, they knew each other some time ago. She said that we were both hand-me-down hosts, new modeled sin eaters housing refurbished Geists. Leslie had already talked to her about forming a new crew, or restarting his own, I can't remember. He said he'd get back to her as soon as he talked to some of the other newbies. He left us alone. She talked over the live jazz quartet without shouting. She said she'd never seen Leslie this excited before. He still seemed pretty deadpan to me. No pun intended. She shook her head, took me by the arm, and turned me to face the bar. She said Leslie most likely left me with her because she knew how to read people, and more importantly, how to close a deal into a yes. I learned about how many people Leslie had lost. She said it wasn't up to the living to honor the dead, but it was up to the living to live. She ordered me an apple-infused shot of rum and led me to the middle of the dance floor. Now, neither of us had any moves, mind you, but bathed in blue and red lights in crystal sconces with topless fire eaters grinding against us, that didn't seem to matter. I'm about 4 blocks from my front door when my phone rings. It's my contact within the ambulance chaser's crew. He tells me Amy's mother slipped out of the hospital. I assume she's regained consciousness. He says no, she didn't. I bolt back down the avenue, below a concrete underpass of fresh graffiti. Water, liquor, and piss stains streak down the sides like descending tendrils. Sloppy red gang logos tagged over Pink Floyd lyrics. Someone's in my head, but it's not me. Shaky marks on the ceiling, horns of crows and crowns. Amy and her mom lived on the 7th floor. Of course, no elevator in the building. That's New York City, always making it easier for the little guy. I don't know what to expect as I keep running. A revenant, a Kerberoy possessing a weakened flake of a woman, a freshly risen sin eater. Who knows? Maybe a new member. All I know is I'm gonna have to break the news to a broken mother. Not knowing what else to do when I reach the door, I knock. The door's not even closed. It swings open into the dark apartment. Someone is sitting in the kitchen, their back turned to me. I get a creep down the back of my neck like a millipede racing toward my feet. And even in the darkness, the general can sense the Numina strangling her. I can make out its twisted shape, tall and jagged like a tree out of a Tim Burton film. From the other side of the apartment, I can tell it's more powerful than something I feel like going solo against. All I have going for me is surprise. The woman who is sitting stands and faces me, and her face makes an exaggerated smile that would hurt if her body were awake. I think you know how this has to go down, I say slowly, so I'll give you the chance to run. You're possessing a woman who just lost her daughter.
I know. I'm the one that killed her. I always hate how you people interrupt family matters. Think of the delicious pain Miss Jessica is gonna feel when I let her go, and she comes to realizing that she strangled her own daughter. I worked hard for that pain. How cruel would it be to deny Jessica the truth? Or how cruel would it be for me to not get to feel her react? This is a mercy killing, and I hate leaving anything unfinished, especially family matters.
I see its corpus thrust into Jessica's arm, and her hand clutches around the handle of a kitchen knife. Jessica's head bobs freely against her chest, but her eyes roll up, still strained to follow me. It's when the furniture in the apartment starts to rattle that I realize how fucked I am. I close the door behind me and walk toward the window. plastic tray full of withered flowers and sun-bleached Pokemon figures. Still, there's dirt in it. I fling it across Jessica's body as the poltergeist flings themselves against us. They don't reach me. I hit the floor with my fist, and the body stiffens in mid-jump, collapse into the floor, and pinning there. The poltergeist buckles, but remains pinned against the dirt. I'll tell you now, the general holds the threshold of grave dirt, son, I say, realizing the kitchen knife was inches from my face a moment ago. You'll stand when I want you to stand. Now you're a bit of a linchpin in this case I've been working. And considering I already have you pinned, why don't we let the general decide how we lynch your ass? So I will say this again. Let go of that woman. The quivering body on the floor twists its head to look at me, and it smiles again. The kitchen knife rises in the air and points down to her guts. No! I lose my concentration, just like the shitbag wanted. It pushes me back telekinetically against the window. I hear the glass break, and I feel sharp piercing along my back. Jessica's body rises and lunges at me. I have her wrists and wrestle her body to the floor. With the poltergeist's power, her body moves strongly but freely, no restraint of joints or fear of pain. But by making me bleed, she's given me a weapon. I touch my back and wet my hand with my own blood. When she throws her teeth at my face, clamping down hard over my cheek, I press my hand against her face and slam her back down. The area I touch burns very badly and glows this deep red. She hisses and she twists. Get out of her, you son of a bitch! The poltergeist controlling Jessica rears back and severs itself from her body, trying to flee. It passes over the patch of dirt on the floor, and I slam it back down with the general's hand. As it thrives on the floor, a twisting black mass of wormy tentacles and elongated knobby faces, I pull out the guard of my saber. Normally, I'd summon the blade and I'd run this bastard through. But this fucker killed 2 women. It made a mother strangle her own daughter. Anytime someone hurts a woman, I clump them into the same shit pile as my father. Anytime I hear a woman scream, I hear my mother, my sister. I don't use the blade. I smash him into the floor using the spiky guard like a pair of brass knuckles. I pound every scrape of plasm into the floor until it withers into this rot-reeking grave dust. I breathe it in, taking in its hate, purging it from the world. Then I hear the glass. Jessica's gone. The window even more broke than before. Shit! I look out and her body lays crumpled on the sidewalk below. Was it the poltergeist? Was it a planted trigger? Or was that the last act of free will Jessica had the strength to perform? Cycle of tragedy comes to a close. No eulogy. No promise of healing. No ashes or dust. Just blood and concrete. It's about midnight. Just finished watching one of the late night Jimmys. I want to get a drink, but I'm not gonna. I want to sleep, but that's even less likely. Sometimes we have to use violence to stop even more violence from happening. And I'm normally okay with that. But sometimes there's just no tracing back where it started or how it's gonna stop. Yeah, I killed that poltergeist. I avenged Amy. But what about her mom? What if she comes back? Am I gonna have to put her down too? Again? I tried turning on some music. The worst shit starts playing. Visions of Johanna. My boy Tom Waits. Yeah, she was a middle-class girl. She was in over her head. She thought she could stand up in the deep end. He had a bulletproof smile. He had money to burn. She thought she'd have the moon in her pocket, but now she's dead. Some nights I walk to the 24-hour diner by the 33rd Street station. Given the hour, the living can haunt any place as well as the dead can. I'd like to think that with enough good deeds, maybe good feelings can haunt a town just as well. Maybe, if enough of us choose to do the heavy lifting. Ah, hell, who's this? Oh my God, do you ever sleep? Hello, Leslie. No, I'm good for you. Good. Where? What, now? Oh, shit. Yeah, no, I hadn't noticed it was full. Yeah. Give me 20. Looks like the Tombstone Kings are going for their first team field trip. It's time to get my underworld cherry popped. Hang on, what is that noise? I hear like this dry, dusty crackle in my left ear. I think the general is laughing.
The Tombstone Kings of Queens is written by Uncle Yo, produced by Jimmy Lin and Uncle Yo.
And don't forget, original music produced by Jimmy Lin.
Special thanks to Onyx Path Publishing and White Wolf Publishing for the chance to haunt a whole new world of darkness. Comments? Questions? Suggestions? Join us on facebook.com/UncleYo or check us out on patreon.com/UncleYo and help keep the Twilight Network in touch. Game on, include everybody, and remember that death is only the beginning.